We gotta tie enough flies for 2 or 3 people. So far I'm doing a terrible job. I'm just doing a bunch of one-off patterns, so I'm gonna have to start duplicating some of these. I wanted to do this one again. I thought this one was cool, but the body is a little bit narrow. I want to beef up the body. I want to keep the moose mane, antenna and tail, and the CDC wing, but we'll try to beef up the body a little bit. So here we go. That'll be the first. Here we go. Caught my first bass of the year yesterday. That was exciting. We'll do some 8s and maybe a few smaller ones. These are 12s. I guess we can start with, maybe we'll start with 12. What was that? I've just remembered you have to lacquer the moose. Because it's a smaller one, I'm not going to lacquer the tail. I might end up regretting this. Found our hairs. Yeah, I definitely think we'll regret this. I'll just do 2 and 2. 2 and 2. And tie these in. It didn't roll very well. I'm going to put a wrap in between the tail to split it. And then we'll do the orange foam for the body. And we'll keep this simple. We'll do sandwich style, 2 on each side, and then the butt will flare a little bit. I'll taper the butt, so I have 2 strips, and rather than wrapping him, I'm gonna sandwich. It's called sandwich style, and I'm gonna taper the ends just a bit and taper it down. And we'll tie in our first segment, and then we'll add a little bit of glue. So that's one side. Here's the other. Okay. And then we'll add a little bit of glue in there as well. Each section will have a little bit of glue, and that will prevent it from spinning. And then we'll travel the thread, create our next segment. I might end up taking down that tail a bit more. Travel the thread, advance it, a little bit of glue. Tie it off. Advance it. One more section. Yeah, I think there's enough glue on there. Yeah. So we get a nice, a little bit fuller body than the spiral wrap. We'll mess with the body after we finish this. Add the wing, add the hackle. We'll do natural for the wing. Natural's the best. Natural CDC is the best. And because this is a smaller one, I'm not gonna add, I'm gonna do two and then I'm gonna put them one on top of each other, or we won't spread them out. It will not be spent. So there's one, and we'll add one on top. And maybe we skip the forward antenna as well on this one. That's two. Okay. Trim those out. We'll leave a little bump for the head. And then we'll come in with just a brown hackle. Yeah, maybe oversize it a bit. That's too big. You could do CDC. That's good. Start a little bit higher up. Go ahead, tie in your hackle. And then we'll advance the thread. Wrap your hackle. This is an October caddis. Size profile. But I think it could also work as like a summer terrestrial. don't want to trap those CDC buds. I like the look of them poking out front. So we'll try to keep those intact. And then we'll trim up that butt as well. The moose mane tips don't really even do anything. I should have added by, oh, maybe the butt doesn't need to be trimmed. Yeah, maybe we just leave it like that. You could add a drop of glue and try to close it up. But I like it open. Kind of like it open. That's pretty basic. Pretty basic. All right, on to the next one. We'll do another smaller, dry, maybe a hair wing. Body material. I'm gonna dub it, I think. Let's see what we got. Whoa, I didn't know. 2 more packages of natural CDC. We'll have to keep those separate. We'll dub it. We'll do a little brown, and then I'm gonna mix in this scud orange shrimp dubbing. It's got a little bit of pink in it, but I like this stuff. So we'll mix that with the brown. I know what I'm tying. This actually, when I mix this, and then I can do a little deer hair head and do a little CDC muddler. This is a great pattern. And blend this up. Nice and thin. This is not the best thread for a deer hair fly. A little bit thin, but I think we'll make it work. A nice dubbing rope. You can pick and trim later. The biggest problem I have with this is I often leave the tag end thread exposed, and over time it weakens and starts to unravel. And the fly breaks down from the bend rather than the eye. So I'm trying to do a better job of covering the bend. Just a little bit more dubbing. You need some space to tie in the head. That's good. Got a few strays. We'll chop those off. Not a big deal. Do CDC wing. Same concept, just layer them on. 1, 2. And another. 1, 2. You want them flat though, that's important. This toppy is a little longer than the bottomy. And we'll advance, and then we'll trim off these butts. And then we'll do a little hair for the head. We'll blend a little bit of orange hair, a little bit of natural hair. I like to have a cup to blend it. Get a little cuppy. Then I'll cut a little bit of orange. Stick it in the cup. I should have cleaned that. And then we'll cut a little bit of natural. We'll clean this one. Stick it in the cup. And then mix them up as best you can. Maybe a little bit more natural. Stick them in the cup. Mix them up. I'm not worrying about the tips. This one is more function than anything. Okay, and then I'll take a bunch of hair. It's not perfect. And I'll start working this hair. You have a space for maybe 2 bunches. 2 loose wraps and a slow spin. We'll advance the thread. And do one more little bunch. Two wraps and a slow spin. Advance the thread. And go ahead, tie it off. Trap in some hairs. And do one more. Let's clear the a little bit better. there's not much hair on there. So depending, you could scissor cut it easily. And so depending on how artistic you want to get, that's, you decide whether to use a razor or not. You don't have to use a razor. You could scissor cut it. When I'm cutting though, I want to make sure I have the CDC wing, because it would be a shame to whack it off. And you can save the trimmings for another fly. And then the rest is scissor work. You'll have to work on getting the head narrow, but right now I'm just trying to get it more manageable, see what we're working with. Keep a few of those long hairs if you want. Some longies on the wing, we can keep those. Or cut them out. Don't matter. All right, so looking at the profile, we need to blend the head, which is the hair, into the body. So it doesn't look as cartoonish. Some angled cuts down will help it transition. I'm gonna take those longies out. There we go. Getting there. When I said I was done with the razor, but I want some angled cuts. Try to get the hair a little bit angled cut on the sides. Just just gives it a little bit more artful look. CDC muddler. Definitely a good one. Good pattern. All right. This yellow Sally, this turned out well, except the thread rib was a little bit goofy. But I like a few more of these yellow Sallies. A little bit smaller size though. How we looking? We used the pale yellow dubbing. I guess we do, like, instead of a hair wing, we could do a CDC wing. We have a pale yellow CDC. Let's see what it looks like. A little bit of dubbing for the body. Dub all the way down the bend and then back up. And we will start our wing here. Let's see what it looks like with the CDC. These feathers are not very good. Not the best feather. That one could work. Maybe that one could work too. That's not really good. You could do a loop wing. So if you have an ugly feather like this, tie it in tip first, draw it back. You're gonna need to crease it, but find your length. And then tie it in. You have to crimp that edge. It's called a loop wing. And then you kind of trim out that excess. Yeah, let's try that. I'm gonna do one loopy. I don't think it makes sense to go flat over the loop. That's too much material. Unnecessary. I'll advance. Trim out the butts. Try to manage our wing. Not great. A lot of people put hair over, but To me, that's a bit overkill. When it's wet, it will kind of slip down on itself. So I think you just gotta go for it. Trust the material. The wing, the legs, I'm gonna blend. So this is a natural. And then the reality is, like Nature Spirit CDC, it might not be the best quality. That's the reality. Then, so I doubled up the brown, the pale yellow over the brown, and I'm gonna clip it. I think yellow is just too much yellow. Yellow on yellow. And I'm gonna trim it out. And then we will split our thread. There's not a doubt in my mind this would catch a fish, but maybe it'd just be embarrassing to give as a gift. Somebody might say, well, what is this? Spin it up. And I want to utilize all these long ones. So I'm going to preen. I'm going to try to trap that feather down and then wrap and preen. I don't want anything sticking forward too much. That's good. Yeah, a little variation, color variation. I'm tempted to trim out that angled part of the wing, but we'll just leave it for now. I tied it in a little crooked. This would be, a pattern like this is good if you like fishing lighter lines, 2 weights, things like that. A bigger hairwing fly does spin, but something like this will not. However, fishing a lighter pattern, slimmer dress pattern, it can be fished in fast water, but it takes a lot of management. Blowing it off, adding more desiccant, things like that. But definitely is effective in fast water too. That'll work. A yellow Sally. So you see the difference. This is a hackled haired version. And then, you know, you always want to look at the profile. The wing is dominant. And then this is the CDC version, slimmed out. The silhouette, you know, a little bit slimmer. It's gonna ride. The imprint, I think, is better with the CDC patterns as well. But that was just making use of an ugly feather. The old ugly feather. Some cripples. What else do we need? What else do we need? Some PMDs. But I might do a special PMD day. I've got a lot of blue wing olives. We can do another drake. Do another green drake. Oh, attractors. We could do some attractors. Yeah, let's tie an attractor. Let's do an attractor. Color concept. Royal wolf. Red thread. Red thread? Yeah, I think you need red thread. Other attractors besides a royal wolf. We do some wet flies. Here's some red thread. Check the time. Humpy. Let's tie us a humpy. I want the tail. I'm going to use this moose body for the humpy. Normally you'd use the tips for the tail, but the moose body has these fine under hair. And I want to use those for the tail. They have a little bit altered tips. The tips are a little bit different color. And then we'll use this for the body. We'll clip it, and then we'll set that aside. We'll use that for the body. We gotta clean up these tails. There's a lot of underfur in there. Might need to pick it out. My little pile's getting thinner and thinner. I'm just gonna eyeball measure these tips. Almost got all of the underfur out, not quite. Eyeball measure the tips. Tail doesn't need to be super long. And then I like it kind of flared out a bit. So I'm gonna crank down that tie. And then I want the body uniform, so I'm going to incorporate the butts of the hair into the body. Then we'll trim it out where we tie in the wing, about there. Come back down. And we can trim that out. I still see a few stragglers in the tail, but it's okay. Humpy colors, red, green, is what I've primarily seen. Blue, maybe? I don't know. We'll go ahead, we'll use our tips. The tips of the hair are not as buoyant as this midsection. It's hollow. So I want to use I want the hump to be here. And so we're gonna chop off the tips. Should have used those for the tail, what the heck. And then I'm gonna tie them in tip first. Again, I want the body to be uniform, so I'm gonna tie them in where we tie the wing. And then work them down. Just on top though. Don't let it roll or spin. And then that last point, I'm gonna kind of crank just to get it flush as you can with the tail. You could wrap the thread and just fold it over and have like a red thread humpy. But maybe we'll do some kind of flashy mylar or use a couple pieces of flash. I think floss is primarily what people use. I'm gonna double up this flash and tie in 4 strands. So it just covers a little bit better. It doesn't matter though, you could just use 1 strand and that's sufficient. And then we'll wrap it. Wrap the mylar. You kind of want to check your work on the other side. I get in the habit of just looking at one side of a fly, only to be disgusted by the other side. Heinous. All right. At some point you have to tie in your wing. And I think some people like to do it first, but I'm gonna go with the hump. I want the hump hairs straight. I don't want them bent or angled on themselves. That looks good. Nope, not quite. I didn't finish the wrap. Okay. Check the belly. Belly's exposed. That's what we want. There's some hairs that are traveling up, but I don't think I can do anything about it. So we'll go ahead and we'll crank it down. And then I want to cut that It'll help. You would dig the thread in there, and then you can use that as a platform to tie your wing. Without it, it's just kind of a steep drop. It makes it, the thread will slip, but a little angle cut helps your thread not slip. And we're gonna clean up this little tail area. We lost one of the body pieces, didn't go. And then this guy's a little bit loose, so we'll take him out. Okay. A white wing is a good choice here. This is a good fly for a beginner fisher. So if you're teaching someone to fish, this is a nice one to use because of the visibility. And so the white wing, this is polypropylene. The white wing will help with that visibility. I can separate these. How thick you want to make the wing is up to you. But I think maybe we try to get 2 wings out of this instead of just wasting it. Okay. So that's enough for us. Some people like to tie it in flat across, but I find it easier just to go horizontal to the hook and then alter it. But the position does matter because this is a heavily hackled, so I don't want the wing too far forward. Right there's a good position. No, it slipped. That's good. I'm gonna rotate it and then I'm gonna cross it. Too loose. I'm gonna position it and then I'm gonna gather it and now give it tension. And it should stick up, yeah. That's what we want. All right. And they can be angled forward a little bit, and I think that looks nice. But that doesn't matter. Not important. Hackle colors. Maybe just straight up gray. You don't have to mix and match the hackles. I'm gonna try gray and black, see what that looks like. This is not a common combination, gray and black. I just am curious to see what it looks like. Yeah, the black is a little bit shorter than the gray. This is actually, I think this will be cool. So the gray is longer than the black. The black will be inside, the gray will be outside. It'll give it like a two-tone look. This will be interesting. Go ahead. Tying your hackles. I like to do a little tie-in point, so trim off the barbs, expose a little bit of the stem, and then tie that in. Maybe everybody does that. And then we'll advance our thread. Let's try it both together to begin with. That's not working. I'm going to do the black first, then the gray. And do the black. That's 4 wraps. And then the gray. I think we might go fewer wraps. 1, 2, 3. I think that's enough. Fish catching machine. Go ahead and tie that off and then trim up the wings. They don't need to be trimmed that much. Some stray hackles there. I'm thinking maybe just knock off that front, then take a little bit off there. I gave it mayfly wings, and then you don't have to do that. You just straight cut it. All right, but the key point is the bottom, and that's what you should always look at. What does the bottom look like? The silhouette. This is a pattern you'd fish in faster water, and then a little bit less selective, and you're choosing this because of the visibility. You know, you're in a place where you know trout will feed on dries. You want something you can see. In terms of durability, you know, every Humpy eventually wears out. There's nothing you can really do. I saw a guy put UV, and I don't recommend that. Don't UV your dry flies. It defeats the purpose of the material. You're selecting the material because of the weight, because of the buoyancy. But if you add some resin, you alter that. You should just tie with foam. And then we use the synthetic for the wing, but calf tail is primarily used. And calf tail has very nice tips and sheds water well. Calf tail is a good material. think we'll do one more. This was a tilt wing. I like the look of this. This is a fly that looks cool, but that big hair wing sticking up, it's tough to get a pattern like this to land correctly. It often will land on the side. So this is a cool looking pattern, but not super practical in my opinion. I was tempted to do more of those. Hoppers, we could always use more hoppers. Hoppers and ants. Hoppers and ants. Hoppers and ants. Yeah, we could use this leftover poly to do an ant. Simple ant. Simple ant pattern. We'll do an easy foam ant. I'm gonna take this strip. What am I doing here? I think I need a wider piece. Or I can just narrow this down. And then I'm gonna fold it. You could pierce it, but I want that butt to kind of hang over. And that's gonna be my abdomen. So let's go ahead and tie it in. That's a little bit too beefy. Too beefy. Yeah, I'm gonna slim that down a bit. Okay. Let's try that. That's our abdomen. And then we will snip, snip. Thin this out a bit. Maybe put in a little drop of glue. We're gonna add another piece here, just above the eye. A little bit thinner than the the abdomen. Get our polypropylene, and we'll use this as a wing material. That's too heavy. I think half of it is good. And I want a little wing sticking out just barely past the butt. We can trim it out, but actually that's a good length right there. Then we'll add our hackle in the middle part. We'll add the hackle after we tie in the head. And then we will trim that out. Don't cut your thread. I'll put a little glue on there so it stops spinning. This is a big ant, one of those carpenter ants. Let's put a little drop of glue on there. Lift this up, put a little right there. And then we'll do hackle and we'll finish. This hackle's a little bit short, but it'll work. I'm gonna leave the red thread exposed. See if that gives it a little bit of style or character. I'm gonna trap the hackle, but I'm gonna travel the thread under and finish the fly up top. It might make that connection a little weak, but I can add a drop of glue right at the base of that, and then I'm not too worried about it. I don't want thread buildup in the middle. I'd rather have it toward the head. If the red thread bothers you, you could just touch it with black marker and cover it up, or use a black thread. Even better. summary. Hey, what are you making? I'm tying flies. Jigs or lures for fishing. This is fly fishing. No jigs. Well, I do sometimes fly fish with jigs. All right. We did our ant, which was, I'd give it a 4 out of 10, but it'll work. We did our Humpy, which turned out okay. And then we did some foam body CDC wing. Didn't turn out great, but again, it'll work. The CDC muddler, classic pattern, great one. And then we did this PM Yellow Sally, CDC Yellow Sally, which doesn't look like much, but it'll work as well. But that's it. We finished. All right. See you later.